Alright, what's going on everybody, and welcome back to another Playmates Monsterverse toy review. Now this was something I actually thought I was going to do later. Later as in after Godzilla x Kong The New Empire has released in theaters. So I was expecting to do this maybe in April. It is now February and this Playmates toy has arrived months earlier than expected. I had this on pre-order because this is a very late release and it is actually originally a UK only thing. It was only available in the UK and it started to hit the US when the New Empire toys were coming out. And so I had one pre-ordered from my store where I'm getting the New Empire figures. And then all of a sudden today, this showed up. And I was like, what could this possibly be? And then I read the label and I was like, oh my god, this is the other Playmates figure, because this is not from the New Empire. So, my original plan was to actually get started on the New Empire figures as soon as I finished the Hollow Earth Battle playset. That was the transitional set towards the New Empire stuff. Slight change of plans, because I didn't expect this to come out, frankly. I know I usually do a separate video of unboxing the figure and then doing a review later. This is just one figure and it doesn't fit with the New Empire figures, so that's why you're going to see this unboxing right at the beginning, and then we're going to dive straight into the review, just like how I've done it back in 2021. So, let's open this out of its package first things first. You know, for a package that's shipped from the UK, I was kind of expecting something more solid, not this flimsy plastic bag. Here we go. Here it is. And just as I expected, there is box damage. That's what happens when you use a plastic bag. So unfortunately, as I suspected, it has sustained some damage. But it is what it is. So this is the Playmates 6-inch King Ghidorah. The ultimate Titan King Ghidorah, as they call it. Without further ado, let's dive in to the review, shall we? Okay, so let's get on with this review. This, of course, is a very unexpected figure. Honestly, I didn't expect Playmates to even do this figure, but here we are. Will it be better than the Jakks Pacific figure? That's the question. I don't even have the Jakks Pacific figure anymore, so I can't even make that comparison, but I'm just looking at it, and I've always stated that Playmates has a higher quality than Jakks, so I'm just gonna go ahead and make that conclusion that this is better. Right before we even open the figure, I'm just gonna make that conclusion, and then I'll make that conclusion again after we actually take a proper look at the figure. The figure is in a pretty nice package, and this package is one of my favorites. I've obviously sang its praises with the Mechagodzilla, the Battle Royale Mechagodzilla, the Kong, and the 2014 Godzilla. Like I've said, this new style of packaging where it's just generalizing the Monsterverse as a whole is very good, and it just looks visually very pleasing because you have a very clean color package. It's not dedicated to anything, and obviously you have the figure open and interactive in the store itself. So let's begin. Godzilla, King of the Monsters. We have Playmates logo here. So the other logos, we have the Ultimate Titan, King Ghidorah, with an artwork right there with the battle damage reveal. And then of course, you can see there's just artwork of Ghidorah, Godzilla, Mechagodzilla, all that at the back, so that's pretty nice. Here is the back of the box. Taking a look, you can see this is what you can expect out of it, and the battle damage reveal feature. Alright, and here is the synopsis at the back. Let's read it. Monarch classification, Monster Zero. A three-headed serpent known throughout myth as the one who has many. King Ghidorah emerges from a glacial tomb of ice in Antarctica as the world's greatest threat. The ancient winged destroyer travels through the skies, cloaked with an unstoppable storm of supercell thunder, driven by a primal instinct to destroy all of life on Earth as a living extinction machine. I added a couple words myself, but you get the idea what this is about. This is a truly dangerous monster, as it was pretty well established. So, that is pretty much it for the package, so let's get this thing open, shall we? assembly didn't take that long to do. And also the unboxing process took like what, 5 minutes at least? So not that bad. But there is a bit of assembly required, of course, mostly with the wings, and of course the battle damage is the other part. This is quite a unique figure, to say the least, just because of what Ghidorah actually is, a 3-headed dragon. So obviously it is intended to be much bigger than Godzilla, and obviously it's not scale accurate. It's not the biggest. It is a 6-inch figure, and of course Ghidorah is like the biggest Titan of all, so it's a bit off, but it's okay. It's Playmates, it's a toy. But the wings, of course, is the biggest thing of Ghidorah. So they come in 2 separate pieces, and there is a bit of an assembly you gotta nail to get these wings in, and they are just attached on the side, but they are quite secure, as you can see. I can literally hold the wing with just one hand, and there is good friction on it, so it is actually attached very securely. However, just to get this out of the way, right off the get-go, you cannot flap the wings. The wings are stuck in its place. You can't flap them. They are stuck the way it is, but I honestly think that's okay. Obviously, being a action figure, being a toy, it would have been nice to have more movement equals more playability. So obviously having none of that for the wing, which is a big feature of Ghidorah, is a bit disappointing, but it is necessary. For the aesthetics though, it looks pretty good. I'm glad that they decided to go like this for the wings as far as that is concerned. But there is mobility within the legs, which is great. Not so much with the knees, just the overall legs as a whole. That's the best you're gonna get out of it. Honestly, it's okay. A bit of mobility is better than no mobility at all. But if you really want some true articulation, yeah, just don't expect much from this figure. This is quite the opposite of Kong, just the articulation really lacks. You can see there's also some articulation with the tail, the 2 tails, both are on the ball socket, so that you can somewhat articulate it in a way. Also the texture, I just want to bring this in closer so the camera can actually pick up the textures. You can really see there's a lot of textures going on here with the scaling and all that. It actually looks pretty adequate here. It looks like a snake scale, if you will. Playmates has really nailed texture, and they keep it clean as well, so it doesn't feel like you're holding a huge, heavy one. You know, this Ghidorah does the opposite of the SH Monster Arts Ghidorah. It is actually somewhat portable, and you can hold it, and you can play with it easily. Something you can do with the SH Monster Arts Godzilla and all the other Titans, but not Ghidorah. The SH Monster Arts Ghidorah is an absolute nightmare to handle, but it looks really nice in display. This, being a Playmates toy, very easy to handle, and it also somewhat looks pretty good for a child's toy. You can't have the high expectations like you do for the high-end stuff, let's call it that. Now, heads. Obviously, there are 3 heads when it comes to Ghidorah, and there are 3 heads. Now, they are quite small, so the camera will have a little bit of a difficult time picking them up, keeping them in focus, and I promise I will switch to a white background when I review the new Empire figures, so this is just temporary. I'm still getting that set up. That's why I'm reviewing all these figures before the new Empire, just in the regular Funko Studio. But I digress. The heads do have articulation. Each of them have a little bit of articulation for, you can move them all the way like this if you want. In fact, I think you can twist their head all the way around. Boom, there you go. The middle head can somewhat do the same, though you do have to do a bit of adjusting. There you go. As silly as that looks, there you go. You can very well do that. It's very possible. And you know, because I think each head has its own unique design, but for Playmates case, I think just budget-wise, they kept it the same just to, because I don't think a kid will notice too much. Now, I will say the actual paint on the faces, on the heads, do look a little bit goofy. I feel like maybe at least giving them some eyeballs would be nice. You know, you can just keep it a simple color, but, you know, give them some eyeballs. That would definitely do the trick. Unfortunately, that's not the case here. You can see it just looks like that. And also the, I guess, what exactly do you call this? The flare? The hair? I don't know, but this is very soft plastic. You can see I'm like fiddling it with my hands. This is a very, very flimsy and flexible fabric. This is a very flimsy and flexible plastic, which could pose a risk of breaking. It's too gentle. You need something a little bit hard. Like, I get maybe for safety, you want to keep this soft so it doesn't, poke someone and hurt a child by accident. But if you can do it with Godzilla's dorsal fins, you can surely do it with Ghidorah's scales there. Like, Godzilla's dorsal fins is quite hard plastic, and it is also quite prickly, but doesn't hurt you. So if they can do that for Godzilla, they can certainly do it for Ghidorah here as well. So I don't know, I guess it's the heads that I'm actually the most disappointed by in terms of the figure. I feel like for a small budget like this, they could definitely make the heads a little bit bigger. For one, give it eyeballs. That's a very big one. If you really are seeking this as a toy for a child to play, I guess it does its job. I will say Playmates, as always, been very good with its quality. Even with the wing, even though it's a little bit, a bit on the plain side. At least you can see there's a bit of texture. You can see its veins, if you want to call it like that, maybe, or its bone or something like that. It's just very straightforward, and Playmates has always nailed textures pretty well. If you look at the back here, this is his back. Look at that. Look at all the scaling going on. That actually looks genuinely pretty sick. Like, there is attention to detail in the texture, just not so much in the actual paint. They just really kept Ghidorah here one singular color. There is also a battle damage feature. It's not Playmates without a battle damage feature, and because it's a new mob, I figure I show you. There you go. That is the battle damage. This is the scar on it. It's, it's quite average for your battle damage. Every Titan that Playmates has done for has a battle damage in a way. It's very minor. You can very well see it though, but I honestly think just as a toy, this functions well. Ghidorah is quite a hard creature to make products of just because of what he is, what his size is, what his abilities are. Like, I understand, and at least I condemn Playmates for actually putting a Ghidorah toy out. Despite this actually being one of the hardest figures to find, it's still pretty good. And I think a child, we're gonna think of this as a toy, so a child would definitely have fun playing with this and, clash with Godzilla, do all that. Now, good transition point to bring up Godzilla because I want to talk about the scale. And now, like I said, the scaling is not accurate, of course. It is obviously a 6-inch figure. It is meant to be bigger than Godzilla. Like, Ghidorah is supposed to be bigger than pretty much all the Titans. I don't think there's a Titan bigger than Ghidorah. So if you want to think of actual scaling wise, well, it really looks like Godzilla is just bigger and more muscular than Ghidorah. Godzilla is meant to be a lot smaller. He's meant to be almost like maybe up to Ghidorah's, like where his neck start. That's a more accurate depiction. But obviously, Godzilla here is a lot bigger. He is a lot bigger. I won't even say they're the same size. The only thing that makes Ghidorah somewhat bigger than Godzilla is the wings. But that's your scale comparison, and obviously, if you don't care about accuracy from the lore, that works fine. Just a child, just giving this to a child to play with, to fight each other. The iconic battle of the alphas, Ghidorah versus Godzilla. There you go. You can have that playability, and it just doesn't create any problems. But if we're speaking strictly on like a lore accurate scenario, definitely not. Let's compare Ghidorah to more Titans. Obviously, we got Kong. I don't think these two will ever meet. Well, technically, Kong has fought Ghidorah in the form of Mechagodzilla, but Kong is towering over Ghidorah. Well, Ghidorah is only taller a little bit because of the middle head and the wings. It somewhat makes up for its lost height. But Kong is just as big as Ghidorah. Now, obviously, Kong is supposed to be smaller than Godzilla as well, so that's another issue. And then, one more comparison, I got my Battle Roar, or not Battle Roar, this is just Battle Mechagodzilla, another 6-inch, one of the later Mechagodzillas that they put out, and let's put him to compare. There you go. You have a full arsenal of comparing Ghidorah to a bunch of different figures, and of course it just feels like Ghidorah is so small
and that's not the case because obviously Ghidorah is supposed to be a lot bigger. Yet, Playmates has somehow made Ghidorah feel like he is a dwarf in this scenario, which is fine. Ultimately, he is a toy, so I shouldn't be too bummed out by it, but you know, for the first impression you want for a new figure is that, you know, it's accurate in a way. It doesn't have to be 100% accurate, but at least it delivers on what the character or the creature is supposed to be. So ultimately speaking, what do I think of this Ghidorah? It's not a bad toy. Not a bad toy. Definitely not so much as a collector's item. Honestly, you can get this if you just want a cheap version of Ghidorah, and I think Playmates delivers on its quality. So in terms of what you pay for, this will definitely be worth your money for sure. It's usually 6-inch figures are worth around 20 Canadian dollars, so if you get them for retail price, maybe even less than retail price, then you got a pretty solid deal for this figure. Don't think about it as a high-end collectible figure, because it's definitely not. This is ultimately a toy, and honestly, I don't even think this can be played a lot because the articulation is, you know, lacking, mostly in the heads, the legs, and the tail. The wings, being the primary feature of a dragon, doesn't even move. So that already defeats its purpose of what Ghidorah is supposed to do. So you can only just pick him up and just fly him around pretending like he's flapping his wings. And his wings are kind of just stuck in one position. However, I do appreciate the structure they've come up with to attach the wings onto Ghidorah. It's quite firm, it's very secure. It should be easy to take off as well, I assume. But it's pretty good in terms of, you know, the firmness of it. Something the SH Monster Arts Ghidorah certainly lacked was that the wings always kept falling off. They needed stands, plastic stands, to keep the wings up so the figure isn't too heavy and topples over. So I guess Playmates really solved that problem here with their version of Ghidorah. The wings were no problem for them, just they had to sacrifice articulation, which this is why I don't think it's too much of a problem. Now, I do appreciate Playmates for putting out a Ghidorah figure, so that reiterates my first question. From the very beginning of this video, I said, is this better than the Jakks Pacific Ghidorah? And I can confidently say from the 2 Ghidorah figures Jakks Pacific has made, the micro one, and then I guess that was like the 6-inch one, there's like a one that's slightly bigger. Yeah, Playmates definitely does it better, because I remember from the Jakks Pacific one, it definitely struggled with the wings as well, and just there were some points of it that just doesn't seem right. I'll take Playmates over any day because they have been nailing it with quality within a reasonable budget, and they've done it pretty well with this figure as well. So that being said, that is pretty much all I gotta say for this figure. So out of 10, I would give this a 7 out of 10. Not bad. Maybe if Playmates makes more Ghidorah figures, maybe an 11-inch, a giant Ghidorah, or maybe a Battle Roar Ghidorah. Ooh, a Battle Roar Ghidorah. Now that's something I would definitely love to hear. Just picking up a Ghidorah figure and hearing its roar, that would be sick. Now, I will say, one thing I would say if Playmates had another chance to release another Ghidorah, it is to maybe put more detail in the heads, the faces specifically. Remember, each of the heads have their own personalities. Kevin. This is Kevin. The internet knows him as Kevin, and of course, this is the head that becomes Mechagodzilla. Kevin is Mechagodzilla. So, maybe if you gave a little bit of personality for each of the heads, for example, give them eyeballs, you know, that's a great start, and just add a little bit more different facial expressions for each. I think that will be very, very unique in terms of the figure, because you have a monster who is sharing the same body but has 3 different personalities. I think that's something Playmates should have capitalized on. Would have been sick. One more little thing I would add is maybe the lightning. You know, Ghidorah does have lightning powers. He shoots lightning out of his mouth. His mouths, 3 of them. So it would be nice if we had mini lightning pieces as well included. We can attach them to the heads so he can, you know, shoot. He can shoot lightning out. Now, they titled this as the Ultimate Titan. Ultimate Titan King Ghidorah. Remember, that was the name of this figure. Doesn't really feel so ultimate to me. It just feels like, you know, just a standard Ghidorah toy. But ultimately, I don't think it's a bad figure. I'm kind of surprised it's like so hard to find. It was just in the UK at first, and now it's just starting to hit the US along with the new Empire figures. So that was a bit of a surprise. But you know, maybe this figure will be more common, and I would say if you run into it in the store, maybe do pick it up, because it's not a bad figure ultimately for the price that you pay for. That's all I gotta say for the Ultimate Titan King Ghidorah by Playmates. It is a figure I didn't expect to get so soon. I expected to do this review in like May, but here we are. So I figured I'd do this one first before we get started with the new Empire stuff, just so I can get everything that's not in the new Empire out of the way. So now I can truly say thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and for real this time, next up will be the Godzilla X Kong New Empire stuff. Our first review will be coming up right after this. So thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in that review. Bye for now.